But at that time you spoke. I mean, you started speaking only about the 10th chapter.
Okay. So I'll speak about Buddhi. When I start speaking, if you could turn off your microphone, that way it makes a better recording. Then when you have to ask me another question, then you turn your microphone on. Whenever you have to say something to me. Okay? Is that all right? So I'll begin. Buddhi, the Sanskrit word Buddhi, which I've spoken about many times, comes from the root bud, which means to awaken, to understand, to reason. And Krishna, throughout Bhagavad Gita, talks about the process he's teaching, Bhakti Yoga, as Buddhi Yoga. So Buddhi Yoga, in that sense, is a synonym for Bhakti Yoga, which we see clearly in chapter 10, verse 10, where Krishna says, Teshang Satatayuktanam, for those people who are always engaged, always connected to me, Teshang Satatayuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, worshiping me with love. So we're talking about Bhakti Yoga here. People who are always connected to Krishna, people who worship Krishna with love. So this is clearly Bhakti Yoga. So Krishna says, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, I give them this Buddhi Yoga, spiritual practice of Buddhi, Jaina, by which Mam Upajanti Te. They approach me. They come to me. So it's very interesting because these people already love Krishna. And so in a sense, Krishna is saying, even for people who are worshiping Krishna with love, there's something more you need. You actually need intelligence. You need spiritual intelligence. So, because otherwise one could say that, well, Bhajatam Priti Purvakam, they're worshiping me with love, so they don't need anything else. But Krishna says they come to me by this Buddhi Yoga, which I give to them, this practice of being reasonable and intelligent. And even for example, in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami, there's an analysis of rasas, or different, literally flavors or tastes of relationship with Krishna. And so the fact that a great acharya like Rupa Goswami writes about this and teaches it means that even in the process of developing love for Krishna or one's relationship with Krishna, there is intelligence involved. One has to know how to think. And Prabhupada himself said that religion without philosophy is sentimentalism or mental speculation. So there's a widespread idea among devotees that to combine religion with philosophy means to be a devotee of Krishna and just to memorize our doctrine, to memorize the teachings of Krishna consciousness, so that if you are a devotee and you know and accept our basic philosophy, then you have successfully combined religion with philosophy. But this is not really the way Prabhupada talks about philosophy. Prabhupada talks, when he says religion and philosophy, he describes philosophy as something in the way that people in the West would. It's the ability to reason well, to put forward or analyze, or to put forward good arguments, to analyze, and when necessary, refute bad arguments. And so, of course, Krishna, in chapter 2, where he divides the chapter in the middle at 239, he says that all these statements about the eternal soul and the temporary body, and the soul is not born when the body is born, doesn't die when the body dies. Krishna says this is all Buddhi. So if we look at Buddhi, say, and compare it to another Sanskrit word, jnana, jnana means something more like seeing the big picture. For example, if you look at um, Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, verses 20 to 22, where Krishna describes jnana in the different modes of nature, it's something like worldview. It's the big picture, like what does the whole world look like to you? You know, apart from all the details, what's the big picture of the world to you? And then in 1830 through 32, Krishna talks about Buddhi in the three modes, and there it's clear that Buddhi is more the analytic, rational intelligence that makes distinctions and analyzes and separates things. This is right, that's wrong, and so on and so forth. So, Buddhi Yoga is the spiritual practice of reason, proper intelligence. And it's important. We see all the time that people claiming to be devotees can get very excited and passionate about this or that and claim that this is a deviation or that's orthodoxy. And they really don't know what they're talking about sometimes. They actually don't have very good arguments. They often don't give arguments. They just declare that this is right and that's wrong. And so there really is a need to be reasonable, to know what you're talking about, to be able to give adequate arguments before you insist that something is right or wrong within devotional service. At least, of course, that's internally among devotees, but even when we speak to the outside world, Prabhupada always emphasized the need to persuade intelligent people to participate in our movement. Prabhupada was actually afraid of ISKCON becoming a Shudra movement, or even a Vaishya movement, which is so. So it is important. I mean, the Brahmins are supposed to be the intelligent class. The qualities Krishna gives to the Brahmins in the Bhagavad Gita: Shamodamatta Bhakshocham Kshantar Arjuna Evacha Jnana Vijnanam. They're learned, Astikyam. They're learned and faithful. Jnana Vijnanam Astikyam. And so the Brahman's supposed to be the head, but it's just like there's a tendency among the modern devotees to think that if they know the dogma, if they know the doctrine, then they're philosophers. And similarly, since a devotee is more than a Brahmin, the fact that one devotee actually knows what he or she is talking about, or actually studies, or has a clear understanding, that means nothing. Because we're all Brahmins, and therefore we all know everything. Under those circumstances, it's hard to construct a rational, even pragmatic society because reason is not given high value. So, next question.
Well, the next one, it's related to this one. What's the importance of reason to spiritual practice?
Well, I was talking about that. One who has an intelligent understanding of Krishna consciousness is less likely to be confused by false arguments. Arguments that come from either non-devotees, materialists, atheists, or fanatics from other religious traditions. And also one will not be as vulnerable to or susceptible to, prone to be confused by bad arguments even coming from other devotees. And also to understand, and apart from that, in terms of dealing with your own internal feelings and thoughts, because we are trying to engage in spiritual practice, and so your own mind may tell you, or undoubtedly everyone's mind tells them many things, and so in order to navigate through through life, and not become victimized by your own mind or by your own desires, that also requires intelligence. And in our relationship with Krishna, to understand apart from our general philosophy, how to think about Krishna and how to deal with him in my daily personal life and how I should approach Krishna. So dealing with other people, with Krishna himself, dealing with one's own mind and body, you have to be intelligent to do all these things. In fact, it said that in this age, Yagyar Sankirtana Pralyarya Janti Sumedas. In this age, people who have good intelligence worship the Lord as in his form as Chaitanya. So, question number 3. Qual a importância que what is the importance that a reason? What?
No, the next one. Question 4.
Oh, we. Oh.
Because the one you did.
Oh, okay.
Some days.
What is Krishna West? Well, it's Krishna in the West. The idea, I know. I've planned to say more. Again, I've explained this many times. It's there are basic, fundamental principles of spiritual life, and then there are details which are variable. So the fact that in a particular part of the world, people in a certain religion have certain kinds of ceremonial dress or play certain styles of music or cook certain kinds of food in ritual or sacred occasions and so on, doesn't mean that these particular forms of clothes and food and architecture or music are absolute or eternal. It's just the way people in a certain part of the world express their devotion. So Krishna West is a project within ISKCON, Hare Krishna movement, that's attempting to separate the pure spiritual science from the certain, you could say, worldly ways in which that spirituality has been expressed in certain music styles and architecture and food. I mean, it's nice. It's a glorious tradition. It's nice to. We should stay connected to the tradition, but if we are going to somehow persuade significant numbers of people outside of India, especially in the West, to try Krishna consciousness, to consider practicing Krishna consciousness, we should just offer them the spiritual knowledge and practice. There's no need to insist that people take on a new ethnicity. And so Krishna West is presenting the same Krishna consciousness that Prabhupada brought to us, but without artificial and unnecessary rules and requirements. Some rules are necessary, some requirements are necessary, but some are not. And there's a tendency for some people to sort of reinvent Prabhupada in their own image. There are people who are very conservative, in my mind, to an irrational point. But anyway, they're very conservative, and then they somehow try to convince everybody that Prabhupada was like that, but actually wasn't. So, yeah, I've written papers on it. There's a website, there's a Facebook page or something. So that's basically it. It's trying to make the pure science available. I mean, imagine, for example, if some medicine was discovered in Japan, and therefore, and then the laboratory said that this medicine will not be available to anyone unless they dress in traditional, archaic Japanese dress. That to get the medicine, I mean, it's absurd. You actually have medicine, then just give it to people. Why make them jump through hoops, ethnic hoops?
Sure. No, because I was just wondering how you explain what Krishna West is to another devotee.
It's just it's a project. It's a project to help people practice bhakti yoga, to facilitate that practice, to do everything humanly possible to make it available to people in the simplest way possible, so they can actually do it without having to become ethnically Indian, which spiritually doesn't really mean very much anyway. I mean, according to our teaching, one makes spiritual progress by certain spiritual practices, none of which require that you be Indian. If someone is Indian, that's fine. That's great. They have just as much right to practice bhakti yoga within their culture as everybody else. But it's not in and of itself spiritual to be Indian. For a Westerner to think that I have to be Indian. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, we'll have a short one today.
Yeah.
So,